The medical establishment have been claiming for years that autism is essentially untreatable. There was a summit on autism in Washington last November in which they said in maybe 7 to 10 years we may have some drugs that might work. The FDA has come out with a position paper saying that there's no treatments for autism. All you can do is drug the kids. American Academy of Pediatrics has the same position. The NIMH has recently come out with a little booklet on autism saying the same thing. Well, we can prove otherwise. We can prove that the kids can recover. So this is the historic moment we're going to introduce you.
Dr. Bernard Rimland, author of the book Infantile Autism, has developed a theory which attempts to account for the disorder.
Books and articles are written as though it's an established fact that the child's disorder was brought about by psychological mistreatment or the way the child was treated psychologically by the parents. I think that this is exceedingly unlikely. In my book on autism, I tried to articulate as carefully as possible each of the arguments for psychological causation and each of the arguments for biological causation. And I came to the conclusion that it's extremely unlikely that the psychological environment, mother's treatment of the child, for example, has any particular bearing on the genesis of the disorder. Like in any other genetic disorder, there's always an environmental factor that relates to the disorder. Children who cluster together in terms of their symptomatology are identified. Then electroencephalographic and biochemical and chromosome other work can proceed toward the goal of finding the drugs or the diets which will, in my opinion, be the ultimate answer.
Very, very few people knew about it in the early 60s during a time of the Cold War era and when JFK was president. I studied that in the history books, and I look at what Bernard Rimland has paved the way at that early time, and I think that's pretty astonishing. And it's a piece of history, too.
When my daughter was diagnosed, we were told by the physicians, we don't know how to treat you, but go to your local chapter of the Autism Society. I was shocked to see that Bernie had been a founder of the Autism Society. He was the one who had the courage at the time to stand up and make such a voice for us. At the time, children with autism couldn't go to school, and it was the fighting of the Autism Society that got children with autism the right to go to school. And I think there's so much that people don't realize about how much I think virtually every child with autism owes to Bernie Rimland and many of the other people who worked with him early on.
I met Bernie, I think, in late 70s. ABA was not getting a very good rap in those days, and Bernie had written a lot of articles supporting ABA and had become close friends with Ivar Lovaas.
Ivar Lovaas called him Bernie up and said, I have an undergrad student who's, has a lot of ideas, and a lot of them deal with biology and the sensory system. And he mentioned that, he thought that both of us would hit it off. As Ivar said, we hit it off.
I've always described it as like a Bernie vortex. If you get around that man and you have anything to give to these children, watch out, because you're going to be pulled in and you're going to find yourself and your life taken in a different direction.
In 1981 or 82, there was a meeting in New Orleans on clinical ecology, and I had written a little paper on why I thought ammonia was high in these kids, and ammonia was high in my son as well. Well, at that meeting, lo and behold, there was a guy by the name of Bernie Rimland sitting in the back row, and he listened to what I had to say. He came up and congratulated me after my talk, and we've been fast friends ever since, and that's nearly 25 years.
When Bernie used to go ahead and give a speech back 15 years ago, there was 12 people that would show up in Cincinnati, and one of them would agree to do something. I don't know how he maintained that without the applause and all of the flack he got from everybody. If we think it's bad now, it's nothing now.
I met Bernie in person the first time when he came to give a talk at Yale, at the Yale Child Study Center. After he finished holding forth very persuasively, I stood up and I said, you know, and what I've seen in practice so far, I'm fully in accord with the instincts and the facts and observations that have driven Bernie's talk to us. Well, Bernie was floored, but that cemented our friendship.
I remember when Jamie was diagnosed as autistic, May the 31st, 1974, about 10:30 in the morning, and I thought every year, every hour, every minute, every second is different now. My life has changed. And initially, I have to admit, there's a sort of slight prejudice against anything American as compared to English. And Bernie was saying things, I thought, well, that is crazy. And I didn't take a lot of notice. But now, everything he said is true. And one of the annoying things is we've done work over and over again. And then we thought, yeah, we've made this thing. And then we look back, and that wretch, Bernard Rimland, has done it before.
I think ARI, was one of the first, if not the first, organization to really let people know that there are safe, effective biomedical approaches other than using drugs.
I can tell you to the day what I had on, what color carpet it was, the first time I got his newsletter that someone forwarded to me. I can tell you exactly. I thought, God in heaven, I have help.
Have gathered a database of over 20,000 people where we have results on what they think of what supplements are beneficial. That one-page guide he made with Steve Adelson, there is nothing else like it that can suggest to families what is safe to consider, what is not safe.
Every intervention I've heard of, when people told me about it, I thought, that is mad, that is insane, that is stupid. Cranial osteopathy, H-bot, all these things have been around a while, and I thought they were all idiocy. Chelation, I didn't have a lot of time for. I used to do jokes about it. But I used to say, let the Americans try it out on their kids before we risk human beings. Now the science is coming out to support it, and hopeful, and that is only through the DAN movement.
When we first embarked on the DAN organization together over lunch in 1994, and could we get some smart people together to talk about this? And I knew John Pangborn, that was once my smart friend. Bernie knew everybody in the world, and he knew the ones who would be really able to participate in this with a good heart and with a good mind.
But I thought it would be a one-off meeting. Never dreamed that it would become the sort of intellectual dynamo that it has become. And that's because of him and his light touch.
The fact that he's devoted his entire life to this, and we're now seeing, I think, significant results. So I'm happy for him, I'm happy for us, but most of all, I'm happy for the kids that we're being able to reach.
He'd take countless hours when he was so busy to talk to a parent that just was desperate.
Like, I go to all remote places in the world and treat children, and you have parents in the Middle East telling me things like, yeah, I called Autism Research Institute and talked to Dr. Rimland, and he told us this, that, and the other thing. It's amazing the number of people he's affected, and for as long as he possibly could, he was still picking up the phone himself and spending hours just talking to individual parents.
I went down there and I was dressed in a suit, and I went to his office, and we were to meet for lunch, and it was 5 minutes to noon, exactly when I like to come to an appointment. But Bernie was on the telephone, and he kept on the telephone till about 1 o'clock. And I thought it had to be 60 minutes or something that would trump him getting off the phone and meeting me for lunch, because I'm an important guy. And he got off the telephone without apologizing and say he was sorry, because he wasn't. It was a first-time call from a brand new parent that had a child and she didn't know what to do. And that was more important than it was to be on time, meeting me for lunch, and he was exactly right. And I understood something very fundamental. We were servants. We were providing service, and that was a higher calling, and he had never talked to that person before, and that's Bernie Rimland.
I think the first time I talked to him, I was interested in finding out more about the Autism Research Institute. And so I just picked up the phone and called ARI, and he picked up the phone.
The number of parents I've spoken to in America who said, first thing I did, phone Bernie Rimland, and he spent an hour and a half talking to me about it. That's something else. That's something else, and we don't get that. You go to your paediatrician in England, and he'd be looking at his watch saying, time's up, thank you very much, I'll see you again in 3 months.
Bernie has an influence on you. That's what's great about a really humble guy. He has an incredible influence on you. When you're around him, you feel like you're in the presence of a saint, a great man. I really appreciate that. I mean, it's like, the Dalai Lama came to my hometown recently. I unfortunately was working, my wife, a lot of friends got to see him. And he said, just great to be around a holy man. And Bernie, although he wouldn't say it, he is.
Such a good example of what a nurturing person Bernie is, because indeed he has tolerated Steve's intelligence and his participation, something that people who are founders and so on, they cannot nurture a person to stick with them all this time. But Bernie is very sticky, and Steve is very brilliant, so it all works.
And many times we'd sit in that office and it's like pieces of paper up to the ceiling and it's 20 feet high. And he knew where everything was. And I thought, this is like the nutty professor, but he's not nut, but you know what I mean? That kind of, how do you find anything in here? Oh, it's right here, or right here.
Even when he was going through his illness a few years ago, I came in and he was going through some difficult times with himself, with his own health, and I had just been diagnosed with breast cancer, and well, he had things Xeroxed for me. He was getting me an appointment out at his alternative clinic out in El Cajon. He just full force got me vitamins, was just, it didn't matter about himself, even though he had this whole institute and all this to run. He focused on that, and he did that countless times to others.
He doesn't get pulled off track by the things that maybe pull you and I off track. I can't pay the bills this month, or, boy, that person really hurt my feelings, or, geez, he's a big egomaniac, I'm not dealing with him anymore. He doesn't allow those things to get in the way. If you have something to offer these children, he'll pull you in through his power, and nothing will stop you from whatever it is that you have to give to this community. And that's his magic.
He was just an amazingly dedicated individual who'd work throughout the day, take a break for dinner, and then go back to work at night. Getting a call at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night was not uncommon.
I think a lot of people probably think it's hyperbole, but no, he actually was in the office more than he was ever at home. He never took a vacation. He's traveled all over the world and given thousands upon thousands of talks. He never did any sightseeing whatsoever, and he was just that driven.
Seeing the cot in the back room, that at 10 o'clock at night he comes back and takes a snooze at 2 o'clock in the morning as he's getting some calls from Australia. And there's a little cot back there by the bathroom, and at 73.
Has done more than
anybody has for autism, and I've argued has done more than all have done collectively.
One of his favorite lines was, it occurs to me, and you know when he's saying that, you have a big job coming up. And he was all, 99% of the time, it was a remarkable idea, and it was something really important to do, even though it seemed, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to get through this task or whatever.
He has worked for decades without pay to help many children. He has no vested interest in this other than the love he has for children.
If anybody went down to actually the ARI site in San Diego and saw it, you would know that he doesn't spend any money on himself or on ARI at all. All of the money goes into the research, it really does.
He took the trash out every week and did all of his own maintenance, and that's why our rent has never gone up, because we never asked him to do anything. He has always done everything himself.
He has kept me going on days when I was driving to work in my car alone and was feeling like this work was too hard, or that I wasn't smart enough to do it, or that it was so hard to withstand the criticism of my colleagues. And it's embarrassing to fail when someone like him kept going despite much greater odds.
I'm a father, he's a father. We go for the jugular. We're not going to mess about, as a medical research council would, spending 20 years discovering the link between cigarettes and smoking. We accept that link and move on.
He gets into trouble sometimes because he's very passionate, and he sees the data that many psychiatric medications have a lot of adverse problems that just seems to be ignored by general physicians. And you look at the nutritional supplements, and they're more likely to benefit, according to parents, and much less likely to cause side effects. And he's had the courage to stand up and say, this is what we find.
For the decades that he was working on this problem, the in-your-face, wake up and smell the coffee model is exactly what he had to bring on behalf of this horrible illness.
He's the Simon Cowell of the autism world.
He's had the courage to write editorial after editorial to criticize groups in the federal government when they get it wrong, when they say vaccines are safe, or when they say thimerosal is not a problem, or when they say secretin isn't working. And he's the one who's able to stand up and say, look, there are cases. You need to listen to parents. You need to get the facts of their stories and to dig deep and not only look at a research study, many of which can be very flawed.
Now, why wouldn't the CDC and the FDA be doing something about this?
Because they're trying to avoid the finger of guilt, which is increasingly being pointed at them. They failed to do the necessary homework, the necessary studies of safety. They didn't require them. They just assumed that it was safe. The drug manufacturers made the same assumption, even though they had data in their own files which showed that it wasn't safe, and they were making money by doing it, so they figured that they could get away with it.
If we were wrong, and this wasn't something that's wrong with immunology and the biochemistry and the physiology, if that's not what was wrong, we would have given up some time ago. That is what's wrong, and we are hot on the track to the solutions of it. We don't know all the answers, but we know enough to bring to bear effective treatment. So it's changed my life, and it's very gratifying to be able to see children recover because of the efforts that you've put in. Tremendously gratifying. And I think Bernie feels the same way.
The Recovered Kid event and both Long Beach and LA, he would sit and watch that DV just sit there and smile because there was these, recovered children.
But by and large, everyone claims that autism is not treatable, and you will see recovered children. The media will see those recovered children. The world will see those recovered children, and the myth that autism is untreatable will be destroyed.
What is your most embarrassing moment?
It was on Halloween, and at school you can wear the costumes that you want to or not, and I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, so I was Aragorn. I was wearing my mom's boots for the costume, but they didn't look like women's boots with the costume. And then PE came, and how do you have to wear gym clothes for PE? I didn't bring sneakers.
We were talking earlier. What do you want to be when you grow up?
A football player.
Oh, that's... I thought you were going to be president.
President.
Oh, okay. At the table, what were we having?
The nuts.
Yeah, and what's your favorite?
The cashews.
Bless you. What's your favorite?
The cashews.
Bless you. What's the name of your soccer team?
Stingers.
The Stingers? Cool. Well, now, something strange happened yesterday. You want to tell me about it?
A couple of the guys from the other team came to play on my team. You get it?
And what's Mommy going to be for Halloween?
A witch.
A witch. What do you say for New Year's?
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. What are you going to be for Halloween?
Patrick.
I thought your name was Dylan.
Patrick's from SpongeBob.
Oh, from SpongeBob.
I like gymnastics.
And what do you like to do for gymnastics?
I jump.
Not too close to the edge. We got a lot of work into you guys. We don't want to lose it all in one night here. You have a little letter here. What does this say?
Dr. Rumbler. Rimland, I forgot. Thank you for helping me and all of the other kids get better. I love you. Baxter Burley, age 6.
Bernie, all I have to do is say thank you for your diligence, your investigative thought on this, and your dedication, not quitting, never quitting, soldiering on, just continuing the fight as far as you can take it. Thanks, Bernie, for that.
Bernie, it's going to be okay. You have entrusted your work to an extraordinary group of people.
What I'm most grateful is for the support and encouragement, because those two together motivated me to give everything I've got to autism. He's an extremely special person, and to have overlapped our lives together and to know him very well, more than most people, part of his spirit is in me. So I'm actually, very excited and motivated to push ARI and Dan as far as they both can go.
There's no words to express the thanks and the gratitude for our family that my son's label is not the end of the story. It's just the beginning.
Very few of us can actually change things. Even normal parents don't really make a big impact on their children's lives. For us parents, it's a privilege and an honour to be able to do that. It's hard work, it's a privilege and an honour. But when you get things sorted out, with that goes a duty to help other people. And Bernie, you did your duty, you did more, you changed the lives of more people than any Prime Minister has done, really, or President, for the better. And you'll be seen for that in due course. And thank you very much.
I would tell him thank you, and I would tell him that I love him, and he will always be a part of my life.
Bernie, you're my hero. You have done so much to help my daughter, to help so many other children, to give hope, to let us know that autism is a biomedical disorder. We need to look for treatments and not hide our heads in the sand.
Thank you for not being afraid. Thank you for opening my eyes to the plight of our children, not just the autistic children, and the children who have been injured from the toxicities in our environment. I just want to tell him that I want to continue his fight.
You made us feel real and important.
You changed so many lives.
You made it look easy.
Bernard, Rimland, thank you for giving my family the opportunities, and also the other families in this world, the necessary tools for my parents in order to help cure me and help me break away from autism. You've given me more than being healthy. You've given me more than success. You've given me more than prosperity. You've given me more than just hope. But you've given me life. In that honor, Bernard Rimland, thank you.
sad eyes. Don't be discouraged, though I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness there inside you makes you feel so small. But I see your true colors shining through. See your true colors. That's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful. Like a rainbow. Show me a smile, and don't be unhappy. Can remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy and you're taking your true colors, your true colors are beautiful, like a rainbow. Like a rainbow.